Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is Global Talent Links ABC Book Quest Charlotte Webb, written by E.B. White. This is session 5. Can you believe you've made it already this far in this book? I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am the 1 millionth time around that I have read this book. So, what did you think? Start thinking about a few things here. We have Fern's mother's reaction about her spending too much time at the farm and with the farm animals. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Don't you think parents would encourage their kids to be outside? What was mom's real issue with Fern spending so much time there? And how about Wilbur's experience being a spider? Or Avery trying to catch Charlotte. Lots to think about that we've been reading so far. So here in chapter 8, Fern continues, as we know, to spend a lot of time at the farm. She loves it there. This is her place of happiness. She tells her parents about the goose laying her eggs and Templeton stealing one. That sneaky little rat. Fern mentions to her mother and father that the animals had said something to her. That might be the concerning part for the mom, and her mom becomes worried, right? Fern's father stands up for her and says that she has a lively imagination. I loved that moment that Fern and her father had. Chapter 9, insects tear holes into Charlotte's web. Here's where you can start to wonder, right? E.B. White has called this book Charlotte's Web. Has nothing to do with Wilbur in the title. And you would assume Wilbur is our main character. What is the significance of Charlotte's web? And in turn, what is the significance of the insects tearing holes into Charlotte's web? She's forced to remake, and Wilbur says that he too can spin webs. He wants to help. Charlotte helps Wilbur attempt to create his own web, make him feel like he's part of a family. Wilbur realizes he is unable to do so. He's not a spider, and he gets very upset because of this. Right? He wants a family. However, this helps him to become grateful for the things that he does have, or very humble. Right? We shouldn't be upset by what we don't have. We should be grateful and happy for what we do have. Chapter 10, there's our beautiful Charlotte. She remembers that she needs to find a way to save Wilbur. Remember, Wilbur is going to the slaughterhouse. Fern and her brother Avery travel to the farm to see the animals, and Avery tries to catch Charlotte. He fails and falls onto Templeton's rotten egg, and Charlotte begins to work on her new web. It's not just a web, it's her home. Okay? Conflict, we're going to learn in a few minutes. There are many kinds of conflict, right? More than just the obvious of one character having a struggle or a problem with another character. Can you think of a time in your life where you were met head on with a problem? Right? Problem is just another simple word for conflict. What is conflict? I just told you that there are many kinds. So check out that video on what a conflict is, right? Conflict is a literary element that we are studying. And check out this video, famous stories that you may or may not know that have to do with conflict. So we have an internal conflict and we have external conflict. When you hear internal, think inside. So an internal conflict is something that happens in a character's heart, in a character's head. External conflict are conflicts that happen outside of our own head and outside of our own heart. In other words, a character having a problem or a struggle with another character. A character having a problem or a struggle with society as a whole as to what's right and what's wrong. And then a character or a person having a struggle or a conflict with nature. Nature is a conflict, right? Tsunamis and hurricanes and earthquakes and forest fires. Those are conflicts. They're all external conflicts. Here are some more types of conflict for you. We just went over a lot of those. All right. At this point in your story, Charlotte's Web, what is the major conflict? What other conflicts have already happened? So break out and see if you can come up with these answers before we move on. And I want you to think If you come up with different answers, you're not necessarily wrong. One might be a major one, but the other is still a conflict that has an impact of the plot on the plot of Charlotte's Web. This for the major conflict. The major conflict is that Wilbur's fighting for his life, right? I think it was at the end of chapter 7 or the beginning of chapter 8 where Charlotte recalls that, oh, yes, I'm supposed to be finding a way to save Wilbur, right? That's the major conflict. There have been many other conflicts thus far in this book. Fern versus many characters, animals versus each other, animals versus man, many conflicts. Even you can think Charlotte having a conflict with her home. Yes, insects destroyed it, but the conflict now is she has to rebuild. Compassion, and I love the image of the heart, right? We can all make that with our hands. I know my background. There we go. I do that a lot with my students during this remote virtual learning, just to give them my love through my fingers made into the shape of heart. Compassion is when your sympathetic concern for the suffering or misfortune of others. You might not be going through a struggle that somebody else is, but you can be compassionate towards them and their family and their feelings for what's going on. Talk about it with your peers. Do you believe compassion is important? I'll tell you, I do. I'm a teacher. If I wasn't a compassionate person, I think I should find a different job. Would anyone like to share a story of compassion? I think there's a few going on in my life right now, and especially with the world around us. We're all struggling. We're all having a hard time with what's going on in the world, and it takes us a minute to step back and understand that some are struggling more than we are. Maybe I can't sympathize, I can't relate because I'm not there, but I can empathize and have compassion for what they're going through, and always make sure that I treat them the way that I would want to be treated. What compassion is Charlotte showing specifically to Wilbur? Could compassion save the world? Isn't that an excellent question? Say yes right away. And then the realist side of me wants to say that there's so much more that needs to go on with saving the world. But I think if we all start by treating each other the way that we would like to be treated, we're off to a great start. Take a look at this chart for compassion. I think the charts that we've been privy to through Charlotte's Web are amazing, and they could all be posters that I would hang in my house or in my classroom. Our vocab: adore, to be very fond or to worship. Vaguely, in a distracted, unclear manner. You're not sure about something, it was too vague. Breakout room time. Share with your group one thing you learned during this session. Tell your group what you think is going to happen in the upcoming chapters. We've talked about it. Predictions are vital to falling in love with literature. Every time I wonder what's going to happen, I want to see if I'm right. I want to keep reading because I'm loving the story. And these are optional, even though, I mean, they're optional. I would always find myself wanting to talk about these topics. What do you think about Avery's character? Are he and Fern similar or different? And if you say both, how? Right? How are they similar and how are they different? Besides the obvious, one being a boy and one being a girl. Do you think Charlotte can save Wilbur? That is a monumental task. Is she going to succeed? If she does not succeed, it will be the end of Wilbur. That's a tremendous amount of pressure to put on herself. And share with the group about a time you experienced compassion in your life, whether you were on the receiving end or the giving end of that. For your next mission, read chapters 11, 12, and 13. Read them slowly, digest the information that's going on, and think, what action does Charlotte take? Our word of wisdom for next session is humility. Which character shows humility throughout the story? As always, boys and girls, questions, comments, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to hear. I'll see you next time.